What's up, everyone? Yes, it is I, your host, Natalie Morrison, and you might be thinking, wasn't this called Swim Masters? Well, yes, it was, and you're definitely in the right place. We decided that we wanted to give the podcast a bit of a makeover, and we're so proud to introduce to you ReVoicing the Future, a Women of NAMM podcast. Don't worry, it's still the same content, still the same hosts. We just wanted to take this to the next level. And we're excited that you're joining us on this fantastic journey. The episode that you're currently listening to was recorded before the name change. And I just wanted to let you know that you are in the right spot. So keep on listening. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for all new episodes of ReVoicing the Future, a Women of NAMM podcast, coming soon. Welcome to Swim Masters, a podcast dedicated to help connect, grow, and support women in the music products industry. I am your host, Natalie Morrison. The Smart Women in Music Fund was established in 2018 by Robin Walenta, Dee Dee Hyde, and Crystal Morris to expand diversity, inclusion, and support for women in the music products space. Twice a month, I will sit down and host virtual conversations with various women across our industry to help foster mentorship and growth. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Swim Masters. I'm your host, Natalie Morrison, with Stephanie Lamond.
Hello.
We're back. Before we get started, we have some announcements to make. The first announcement, which is very exciting, is on June 30th, Swim Masters celebrates its 1-year birthday anniversary. Woohoo! Can you believe it?
How has it been a year?
I don't know. This is wild.
All the stories. Oh, so much learning. So good.
So in 1 year, we've interviewed 24 women.
Wow. Thanks for having this idea and doing it.
Thanks for helping me make this come alive.
And for anybody who's listening, thank you for being here and, being a part of this. You're why we're doing this, trying to just tell everybody's stories. And as you'll hear Hilary talk about in this, our guest today, it's all about just why we're doing this is so people can hear stories of people that they can identify with or that they can be inspired by and know that they can get there too. And so there wouldn't be a point if you weren't listening. So thank you so much for listening, for telling people about it, for putting these lessons that our guests share into practice in your lives and your career. And I'm so excited I hope maybe one day there's ever a meetup at NAMM and we get to talk to people that listen to this.
I know. I can't wait for that day.
Out there.
Well, I have gotten.
You've got some wonderful notes.
I've gotten some wonderful notes from people.
Thank you for you people that have been writing. And
it just reminds us why we're doing this. Every so often you get one of those messages when you're having a bad day and you just see this really nice message and it just reminds you as to why we're doing this. Yes. So thank you, everyone. I've been gushing about all the support for a year now. So,
So just, you heard it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We bow before you. Namaste. Thank you. Namaste. Yeah. So we're a year old. Oh, we're kind of walking. We've got our little toddler legs. No, we're not. Probably not in terms of actual development, but we are as a podcast. And so with this episode, this is gonna be the end of season 2. We're gonna take a short little break because I'm moving and Natalie just
I'm
moved.
Moving.
And or you're still in process.
Well, so okay, as we're recording this, I'm in the process. By the time this episode actually airs, I will be in my new place, but finishing up some things in the old apartment. So yeah.
So we have life things, but also we have so many ideas of how we want to build out the ecosystem that is Swim Masters in terms of content. And we're bringing in some of the other swim team to do a lot of bonus things and just build out the world of it. So we will be coming back with season 3 later this summer, but there will be a lot more to it than just the podcast itself. So stay tuned.
Yeah. It's gonna be great. And also a couple other housekeeping things. If you are attending Summer NAMM, the swim organization is hosting a swim meet on Wednesday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m. I don't remember all the details. I'll put it in the description below, or just follow us on socials, subscribe to our email newsletter. You'll get all the details. But we really hope that you come and say hi and network and mingle. And yeah, Summer NAMM in person. Woohoo!
Woo-hoo! So exciting. So
exciting. I know. Normal life.
I know. Oh, it's so nice. So nice. So, yeah, today we were very lucky to be joined by the wonderful Hilary B. Jones. Natalie.
We got to sit down and chat with Hilary B. Jones, who runs her own consulting company that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the music industry and music product space. And we talked about this music Gear Bechdel test that she created, her experience working in music retail, and then launching her own girls rock camp in Rhode Island, and why she wanted to focus her work on creating more spaces for women in this industry. So it's a really awesome, exciting episode.
Yeah, we talk about so much. And she's fantastic and breaks down things that all of us can start doing every day that are there's the big asks that we can want to do long game, but little things we can start doing to be building an atmosphere in our workplaces that can help build this better world that we all want to live in and work in, and some tips and tricks that we can all start taking to heart. Get a little homework for all of us to be good, help be good allies, be good advocates for ourselves in our workplaces. Just it's so big and it can be so vast. And Hilary does a fantastic job of breaking it down into ways that are, I don't know, they're tangible. They're things that we can do. It's not bigger than anything we can do. And it's just fascinating to talk about this and examine it as a concept. The idea of the music, looking at the music products industry through that lens and everybody's experiences, and how we can just keep making it better. And that's why we're doing this. So yeah, I can't wait for you all to hear from Hilary and look her up. She runs a podcast called the Midriff Podcast. If you love hearing her talk, go to that and hear more of it. And I'm sure it's just all of this brilliance. So yeah, I just can't wait for you to hear Hilary and for all of us to now go out and continue this awesome work that she can help guide us in.
Exactly. Hear, hear.
Woohoo!
Well, with that said, thank you all again for your love and support over the past year of Swim Masters. And we'll see ya on the flip side.
Woohoo! Banana.
Hi, Hilary. Thank you so much for joining Swim Masters. Stephanie and I are so excited to have you on the podcast.
I am equally excited. So psyched. Yes. I'm freaking out.
So let's get to know Hilary B. Jones. So where did you begin your career and what was your path to where you are today?
So my career, as with many folks, it's been all over the place. As I know you've talked to many folks who've had that same experience. And it's, I started playing guitar when I was 14 and I just kind of kept playing and I loved it so much. And but then when I got to, time to go to college, I was like, well, I guess I should go to college. And my parents were like, I guess you should go to college. I was like, I guess I'm going to college. So I went to undergrad and I majored in psychology with minor in women's studies. And and
me too. Not women's studies, but psychology. Yeah, man.
Sure. Yeah, totally. And so it was just I loved it a lot and I thought it was great. And I was playing music the whole time. And then I decided, like, well, I don't really know what to do next. So I guess I'll go to more college. And so I went to grad school, and that was for behavioral science psychology with sort of, it's like kind of like social psychology. So the focus is on like, um, basically how individuals are affected by groups and group membership, and identity. And so there's a lot about gender and about race and things like that, which was really exciting for me. But it was really research based. Yeah, super, super cool, super fascinating. And that's kind of where I just assumed I guess I'll be a professor now. And while I was doing that, I ended up actually, through one of my classes, ended up connecting with this nonprofit where I started getting interested in doing work around sexual violence prevention. And that I basically learned that there was a job where you could just go into schools and colleges and businesses and talk to people about like gender roles. And I was like, whoosh, my brain exploded. I was like, this is amazing. So I was still in school. I did that. And then as that was happening, I also, I was still playing music, still playing in bands, which was kind of bonkers. I was in like 2-3 bands and like in grad school at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm skipping the part where I was actually, before grad school, when I was in undergrad, I was also working at a record store, and I was also working at, after that, a guitar shop. And then, so it's all of this is kind of like coming together. It all feels very related. And I'd heard about this thing called girls' rock camps, and I was like, that sounds awesome. Like, that's all of the things that I care about put together at once. And so I kind of like stuck it in the back of my brain and went to grad school. And, it's like, well, I can't do that now. That doesn't make sense. And right when I finished, I went and volunteered at the camp in Brooklyn. And I was like, hey, friends, all of my friends, what do you think about this? And everybody was like, yes, for sure. Let's do it. So we started a camp here, and eventually I had some nonprofit experience. We started that nonprofit and went on to run that for about 10 years. And when that finished, or when I was done with that, I moved forward, and I'm now doing consulting work around gender issues in diversity and workplace culture in the music products industry. So there you go. Here we are. Woo! That was. I feel like I'm running a race to get to the end of that story, but we're here. I feel like we made it.
And you're so good at telling it. Like you can tell you told this before though too. Like or that you at least know how to articulate how that. Because I love that, like, you can look back and see, because it totally does all intersect. And I feel like that's something a lot of people don't know until they're finished with what feels like the first step of their career, right? And then they look back, and so I like that you kind of have it succinctly able to express that this all led somewhere. This was all here, and these are the things that zippered to make your
It's funny. I would have it really, it makes a lot of sense now. At the time, if I had thought about it, I'm like, I don't think I would have predicted it, but here we are.
Yeah.
Also, you're showing that you don't have to major in music to work in music. Like, you still had the music interest and you participated in all things music, but it wasn't necessarily your major.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I still play music. It's still something that I do. And, it all worked out. And it was interesting because, doing the work with camp, one of the things that's sort of like magical about being a part of a rock camp is that you're creating this space where people are able to sort of like take risks in a way that feels very comfortable, and people feel very supported, and they feel like they can kind of do things they wouldn't otherwise do that might be scary. And I think what I wanted to do initially, when this consulting thing, sort of bubbled in my brain, I was like, okay, what if we can create that space outside of camp? Right? Like, how do we create that in like workplaces where people are spending so much of their time, in the industry as a whole, where musicians are, like once folks leave camp, I want them to have that experience outside of camp. So it all kind of flows together for me, at least.
Oh, that's so beautiful, because I feel like you're creating a whole, generation of musicians, music people that are coming through these things, being taught they can express freely, that they can be the kind of musician they want to be. And then I imagine they, hit the roadblock that is the existing industry that is not as forgiving. And at least they've started with that foundation. That's at least something, but that's fascinating. That's a really interesting jump. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's, part of it too is like, in some ways the camp itself is the onus becomes sort of on the folks participating to like put themselves out there. But I feel like we should be creating a space where the onus is actually on the culture and on, men in particular and white folks in particular to be able to like, be like, actually, I need to learn how to make the space better for everyone. So yeah.
Oh, I love it so much.
It's
so needed. More.
Yeah. And in a way that's not, I think that almost ties with like the way you make a young girl comfortable to go up on stage and demand what she needs out of something. It's making that not scary. And I think that's a big thing, is making people not scared of talking about this stuff and admitting what they don't know. And it's just an open, if everybody was just open and emotionally self-aware and able to communicate about their emotions, we'd have a lot of an easier time in this world, I feel like.
Yes.
So, and music is such a great tool for that. So beautiful.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Great. Okay. So we'll get into all that. We're getting there. I love this though. Cool. This is so exciting. So I know we did, you were in bands and stuff, but what, just as an aside, so we have more info about you. What do you love to do when you're not doing your work and in music? Who is Hilary outside of the music obsession that we all have?
Boy, let me tell you, I'm not sure, but, I have a family, I've got a partner and a son, and he's 5, and we like,
Yay.
My partner builds bicycles, like custom bicycles. That's his jam. And we both work from home. It's great. So like, but yeah, I feel like raising a 5-year-old son is like a whole thing, as well as like thinking about the ways that you're helping to create the culture through parenting. Like that's a whole thing as well. Like, let's do this the best we can. Right. But as far as like the fun stuff, I mean, that's fun too. I like to go to, I like to ride bikes. I like to go hiking. I like going like to flea markets and stuff, antiquing. And, I just like to go to guitar shops. I just do. It just never ends. I can't stop.
I love it.
There you go.
It's so nice that I feel like that's very fair. We all have our side interests, but what we love to do is so inextricably tied with what we do, especially I feel like with work like yours. It's like a soul calling. So that's just you, and it's what you're doing. And that's,
I feel
so
very,
cool.
I feel very lucky to be in that situation. It's a real privilege, honestly.
Yeah.
Totally.
Speaking of your jobs at record stores and music retail shops, what is it about those environments that draws you into the music space, and what inspired you to establish the Girls Rock Rhode Island, or the Riot RI program?
Yeah, I worked at, I was the first woman who was a guitar salesperson at this shop, which was called Marguerite's Music. And it was in the upper Midwest, in where I'm from. And it was the largest independent dealer at the time. And the woman who ran it she had started it as a card shop, basically like gift cards and like a gift shop kind of. And then her son, like in the 60s, started playing guitar, and he's like, "Mom, what do you think about carrying these guitars?" And she's like, "Okay, let's try it." And
oh my God, that's
and
so cool.
It really took off, and and that's what happened. And I was sort of hired. I went in there a lot, but I didn't know anything about guitars, really. Like, I didn't know much about gear. I couldn't change a string. And I had been working at this record store and had a not great experience. And I mean, I loved working there. It's fun, but like the management, it was very problematic. So they kind of were like, "Hey, do you want to come work here?" I was like, "I don't know anything, right?" And they're like, "It's cool, we'll teach you." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is a dream." So they taught me kind of everything I know. It really sparked my interest in gear in a real way. But I also had the weird experiences of like everybody wanting to, have the man, work with the man who's the guitar salesperson, the other person I was working with, asking me like weird questions about like how like being just totally baffled that I would be interested in gear in the first place. Coworkers sharing like really offensive jokes and stuff and like pictures around me, that kind of thing. So it's like the things that happen that, you
all the things,
all the things,
yeah.
check, right? So, so that, and then, just being a musician as well, it was funny. I didn't until very recently remember this situation where when I was in high school, I was in a band with my boyfriend. He played drums and I played guitar. And I remember specifically saying to him that like, I cannot like hold your hand. And I was like 16 or something. I can't hold your hand. I can't kiss you at a show because I wanted to be taken seriously. And I didn't want people to think that I was only in the band because I was dating him. And it was like, I totally had blocked that out. But I feel like those types of experiences, like I somehow got this message that was the reality. And I hadn't been doing it for that long. And I also grew up with like, the guitar worlds with the buyer's guide and all of that. Like, so all of those things sort of led me to wish that, I'd had something like a rock camp when I was younger. I wanted people to, other people to have a better experience where they felt really supported. And the other thing about camp is that there's a lot of workshops. It's not just music. There's workshops on healthy relationships. There's workshops on privilege and oppression. There's workshops on all sorts of like issues related to being a young person. And so it all just sort of made sense. Like having that sort of understanding what a healthy relationship looks like, understanding what gender roles look like, and understanding how folks work in the world makes it so that when you do go on stage and you do, if you work at a store, you're going to be able to better handle that stuff. So it all kind of worked together in my mind.
Yeah, that's cool. And how to navigate that and empowering people to do that themselves. That's seriously super cool. So in your work, assuming someone listening to this too doesn't know, say there's people like maybe men listening, other allies listening that don't know, in simple terms, in your mind, what do you see as the main barriers people face in feeling welcomed into our industry and getting into it, specifically, I guess, in music products, speaking in the NAMM space?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah, well, it's good. You got to define it to be able to like. Sometimes it's so big. You got to, and even if you can, it's very hard to define. But I wonder if you can for those of us who might not know yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes in it functions in a few steps, sort of, right? Yeah. So like there's these external messages that folks get about what like cis women are supposed to do, what trans women, non-binary folks are supposed to do, and that. I think those messages that we get from a very young age. And a lot of that, I think, is around technical skills such as playing music, right? Like even within music, there are particular stereotypes around the types of music or types of instruments that folks are supposed to play, right? So it all gets ingrained so young that it just seems like that if you can't imagine yourself doing something, it doesn't become an option for you. Yeah. So that's, I think, a big part of it. And then I think there's a lot of spaces where it's like these subtle experiences that folks have are giving them messages in addition to like the larger societal message. These small individual interactions are causing people to think like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to this other place where I'm going to have a little bit more support, this other field or whatever, right? Instead of having someone telling me that I don't know how to plug in my microphone or something, like it's like a lack of support, and then that can lead to a lack of confidence for folks in when they actually get into this space. If they don't have that confidence already built, it's hard for them to kind of like have the time and the space and the ability to learn and to build it because they're not given the support.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that feels like you might sum that up in like that it's about the atmosphere, right? It's like from the very beginning, sure. People being able to tangibly experience people that look like them, that have similarities to them, doing things that they might want to do, and then making it so that when they start doing it, they feel that they are supposed to be there. And that's so hard to define because it's intangible, but that's everything. That is everything.
And you can see the ways that it kind of like manifests in particular spaces where it's like, okay, well, you work in a guitar shop, but you're still expected to like do admin. You're still expected to do, it's all of those things. Even though you get in this space, you still have those expectations that sort of roll out around like, oh, you're the one, oh, you're going to answer the phone, or you're going to take the notes at the meeting, or you're going to, like all that kind of stuff still seeps in. I think that's the stuff that people don't necessarily notice. And it's not the end of the world, right? Like no one, there's much worse things that could happen, and much worse things do happen. But I think that the combination of those things all together, the environment, it's like the air you're breathing is sort of,
they compound.
Yeah,
totally.
For sure. Yeah.
And I want to go back to your example from when you were 16, because you also mentioned it's when we're younger, some of these things are ingrained in those experiences. So people might not realize that their actions, let's say a 16-year-old who's getting on the stage with their band, that's going to impact them for the rest of their lives. And you even said that you shut it, you forgot about it. And then it just came, you just put it in the back of the little treasure trove of experiences.
Of suppressed memories. Yeah.
Right. No, honestly, I wonder if that's like part of it too. It really just like surprised me when it came out. I was like, oh yes. Like I totally forgot about that. I mean, I think about it now as an adult person who's in bands with men, sometimes I play with men and sometimes I don't. But like when I have, there's always that, like your assumption that you're dating the person in the band, and like sometimes you are and sometimes you're not, but that shouldn't have anything to do with your value as a musician, right? Like and it's interesting too, because I feel like there's in some situations there's like two camps, right? Where it's like some people are like you really want to make the space better so that other people don't have to experience those things. And then there are some people who I've run into in life who are like, well, that's just what it's like. And I had to work really hard to get there. And so everyone should have to work really hard. And then you just have to suck it up and put up with it. And that's a whole other, that's, I feel really sad for folks who have that mentality, because it's like, it's poison, right?
Totally. Yeah. I think that is, I personally am seeing that a lot in just this intersection of us working in, well, any in the music industry in general, but a lot of the young people coming up and ones that had to claw their way to where they are now. I feel that there's that conversation happening, which I think maybe is a little bit of a scarcity mindset, because if there was one seat at a table for someone who wasn't a white man, then it's going to be me, not you. But and so there's still that mindset now when we're all just like, but we could make space for everybody. So so how do you, yes, that's a huge question, but in say someone comes up about that, what's like how do you have that conversation succinctly, like without going down too far this rabbit hole? Is there any strategy that you use or mindset to frame that for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my first thought is just the idea of like lateral or horizontal violence, which is the idea that like you are like, if you can get, for example, women to fight with other women for position, for power, for whatever the thing might be, then they're distracted from the fact of the real problem, right? Like they're distracted from what the real issue is, which is the patriarchy, right? Or like whatever system is causing problems, right? And that happens in every oppressed group, right? So if you can frame it that way and be like, actually, the people want us to fight with each other, like that's encouraged, because then we can actually get to where we need to go.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a good way to bring that up and have someone be like, oh yeah, I feel like that's a statement that can cut through to the logic center of people.
Yeah. And I think also just being like, I recognize that you had that experience and that was really hard for you. I do not discount that. And you have worked very hard, but also, like, wouldn't it have been nice to not have to work that hard? Think about what else you could have accomplished. Yeah. What else could you have accomplished if you didn't have to have all those barriers or things that you had to get through, to get there? Like, what else could you have done? There's just so much possibility with that.
Right. And also that situation probably wasn't the healthiest situation for you to be in either. Or you might just be blind. Right. Someone might be blind to the fact that that's not a healthy situation for the person that they're talking to. So you just have to be aware and respect everyone's experiences.
Yeah. Because it gets normalized too. Like that's part of it. It's like people think that's what you're supposed to do. And so they're like, well, I guess this is just what we do,
Oh, well, in that vein, actually, that's a perfect segue, Natalie, for how people can like look at themselves and figure that out, because it becomes so normalized when it's the air we breathe. How do we figure out where we are?
So you launched this music gear Bechdel test. And when I read about this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So what is it? What inspired you to create this? Let's just start there.
Yeah. So if folks are not familiar with the Bechdel test, the original Bechdel test, for some reason, basically, it was created by Alison Bechdel, who had a graphic novel called Dykes to Watch Out For, which was fabulous. And she recently had a Fun House, if you're familiar with that. Anyway, she had written basically in one of these illustrations that there are 3 things that, women would need in order to be better represented in movies. Like, I want to see these things in movies in order to feel like I can go to see them. One is that there are 2 female characters and they are both named and they talk to each other about something other than a man. And that's the baseline. And to this day, I think about 55% of movies only pass that. And that is a low bar. It is a low bar. Like, they could be talking about laundry. They could be talking about shopping. It's a very low bar. So not that there's anything wrong with talking about laundry or shopping, but, more character development would be nice.
We're not asking for too much.
I feel like it's not asking for much. But so many movies and so many very famous and very, movies with lots of accolades do not pass the Bechdel test. We got the book The Hobbit for my child, and I looked at it and I was like, don't see a single woman in it. I'm sure probably none of the Lord of the Rings films do. Anyway, moving right along. The music gear Bechdel test. It's something in having conversations with companies. One thing that comes up, and I think with people broadly, conversations around like how to manage social media and marketing and what is appropriate or not appropriate and how to like actually do a good job. And to me, I was like, well, I wonder if there's a way to apply that to people's, marketing and social media in the industry. And so I created, or I sort of thought about what might make sense and what might be important for people to address in the industry when thinking about, just doing a better job with representation of women. And this is just women. There are other folks who have made them for movies, for other spaces, but this is just specifically around women in the music, in music gear and music products. So here are the rules, and they are hopefully a little bit more aspirational than the original Bechdel test. So 1, there is a woman. 2, she is presented as a capable musician. 3, if she is presented with an instrument that has traditionally feminine aesthetic, like pink or flowers or sparkles or whatever, there is a companion ad featuring a woman with an instrument that is not traditionally feminine and aesthetic. But the idea with it is that it sort of provides some guidelines for companies for not just like creating one particular ad, but for kind of thinking about all of their ads and social media posting as a whole. And so it's thinking about like not only like, making sure that she's presented in a way that is capable, that makes sure that, like if she's presented sexually, it's on her own terms. If she's a woman of color, that it's like, not using racial stereotypes. If she's a trans woman, her identity and pronouns are respected. Attention to the way that they manage the comments that come after that, if it's on social media, right? Because people see those things, right? Like that I feel in some ways like that's part of the package. That's part of the job. Yeah. People who run social media, hats off to you, because that is it's a lot. But
skin, man.
Yeah.
Or so aggressively compartmentalized very well.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just useful because I think that people can look at this and read the test and say like, okay, looking at across all of our media, all of our marketing, are we doing this? Like, I think it's useful just to have something to go by instead of being like, I don't know, are we doing a good job? So there you go.
What have you learned from giving out this test? Like, what data has been pulled in as you've like through the process of administering it? Like, has anything like really jumped out to you?
I think the thing that becomes the most complicated for folks is that first of all, they just don't have enough women in their ads to like even assess this. Many companies, not all, there are some that do a great job, but many of them just don't have enough in the first place. So that's the first issue. But I think the major issue that people struggle with, I think, is around how people are presenting themselves. So if someone's presenting themselves sexually, is it something that is empowering or with agency, or is it objectifying? Because people have a very hard time wrapping their brains around that, I think. And recognizing that, like, if a woman is choosing to present herself that way, like, that can be her personal self-expression. And then, it doesn't mean that, like, that she's necessarily, being controlled by some media somewhere that's making her do it, right? It depends on the person and it depends on the scenario, and sometimes that's hard to tell. But I think that recognizing that, like, if somebody's choosing to present themselves that way, that might be a choice. However, if a company is only presenting women in like very sexual ways, that's also a problem, right? Like, there should be a range. If you only have like 2 women, you don't have enough of the right. So part of the issue with representation generally is if you don't have a lot of people, you can't. Everybody's in like a small box, right? Like, you don't have the range of representation, which is, I think, in many cases, the real problem.
Yeah. Wow.
That's so interesting. And also, like, you don't want companies to just showcase a woman or a person of color because it checks a box off.
Right. You don't want it to be tokenizing, because that feels
it's not
bad.
thoughtfully done.
Right. Because, and so the idea is that people are also hopefully doing other things that are supporting folks, like whether it's like having people on their artist roster, or talking about issues that affect folks, or have them staff that are women, for example, or staff that are folks of color, like that. Makes it feel real, instead of just like, oh, we're gonna hang up this one woman and look, we did our job check.
Yeah, I love that this can be a way to start those conversations too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's talking about one specific aspect of business, but I feel like no company could do this without starting down that path of all these things have underlying things that you need to examine to address them. And that's a really cool, I don't know. It's a little bit like, what's the saying? Like putting a frog in lukewarm water, and then you boil it slowly so it doesn't understand that it's boiled until it's already boiled. So you ease people into thinking about this stuff and let them feel like they came to it on their own. That's a good subtle kind of way. But I don't know. I love that that's kind of a gateway. Pulls people into those larger ones.
And this is also a very timely conversation too, because, and I've been reading a lot about this in the past couple of days, because it is Pride Month, and they're talking about rainbow washing and making sure that companies are actually doing more than just changing their logo to a rainbow, or selling products that have a rainbow design on them because that's what they think supporting Pride is.
Yes, 100%. And that's the other thing, right? Because it's like, and people can tell, right? Like, people can tell when that's happening, because if they're paying any attention at all, they're going to see whether folks are actually represented in a way that is respectful. If they are, hiring folks, if they're represented across the board, if they're supporting those projects led by those folks, like it's whatever the group might be. And it could be, for Pride, it could be for Black Lives Matter, it could be for whatever, like any group. People are paying attention. They're going to notice.
Yeah. So if a company is interested in the music Gear Bechdel test, how do they get involved? Do they contact you? Like, what's the...
Well, so if the test itself, like, they can, it's on my website there. Anybody can access it. They can take the test, and they can, I would recommend doing it. You can have that conversation internally. If you have a group of folks that are involved in marketing, they can do it depending on the size of the company. If you want to do it as staff meeting, like, go for it. Like, there's lots of ways that you could do that. And even think about, like, okay, well, we're having this meeting. How do these other companies do? Like, who's doing it well? Like, it kind of, as you're saying, can start that conversation. And I'm obviously happy to help folks, to dig in a little bit further around that as well. I love talking about this, and I could do it all day. And then we do trainings and things like that as well. So that can hopefully get people to a place where if somebody gets hired, that they will stay. Because I think that's one of the issues as well, right? So it's like, that is a major problem where people, like, they're like, well, we hired the one person, and then you're like, they left in 3 months, and well, so yeah.
So come
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and shout out to Heather who connected us, because they found you through doing work with Reverb. So it's happening, everybody. You can do it. Reach out. Let's make this more of a norm across our industry that we are doing this work. I mean, I think it already is happening, but I think in music products, I personally, I don't know, I don't work in it 9 to 5 anymore, but I think products I've sensed might be a little bit slower to be embracing some of these ideas than now that I'm on the more public facing, like artist side. I feel like that has been, I don't know. I think this is something that still, we're starting these conversations, and hopefully they will be open arms embraced. But I think, yeah, starting small. Well, on that note too, that's how, so someone listening to this and they're like, okay, I love my company, I want to help us do better. What is something that, other than the Bechdel test, because Music Gear Bechdel test, I think that's a really good place to start. What's another small thing they can start doing in their day-to-day or in their jobs they can bring to management, or something that doesn't feel terrifying, but is something they can start doing to start building the habits of like being, like living this and helping to create this atmosphere that we all want to see.
I mean, the first thing that I always think of, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but it is to do icebreakers. Which sounds silly, and everybody's like, I don't want to do any trust falls. But here's the thing, like, in order to have these conversations around gender issues, around any issue related to diversity, you have to be able to get uncomfortable. And people don't want to get uncomfortable with people that they don't trust. And you don't trust people if you don't know them. And that's why you have to build trust through things like icebreakers, even though you might hate them.
I love that.
It's like, it's finding the ones that work for you and your team, I think, is the important thing.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I have a coworker who does that for certain meetings. He's like, it's icebreaker time. Yeah. But it helps. It really does.
Yeah. It's when,
because then people are like, okay,
yeah, and it's like, you really have to be. If your team if everybody already gets along really well, you don't need to worry about that. Like, that's fine. But I think that in spaces where I've seen trouble emerge, oftentimes it is because there is some breakdown and a lack of trust. Because if people trust each other, they can have a conversation and say, like, hey, that thing that you said really made me feel uncomfortable. Like, you can actually have that conversation. And the other person will actually listen to you because they trust you and they like you. But if you don't have that, then there's going to be a problem.
That's just so beautiful, and it's so gettable, and it's all just like we talked about, people being able to feel comfortable in spaces. And that is, of course, that's how you do it. That's good. But we don't think of those things together because it's so thought of, though, right? Like, we do this, but not with the intention of this can help us build a better overall world. It's just something people just do.
Yeah, that is like the literal easiest thing that you can do.
Yeah. Do icebreakers.
I love it.
I love it.
So I want to hear more about your podcast, Midriff, and when did you start the podcast, and what's your vision?
Yeah. Yes. So the goal with the podcast, so I started it in January of 2020, and it really, the purpose is twofold. One is to create a space where cis women, trans, and non-binary folks can sort of like feel supported, share stories, experiences. And two, it is so that folks in the industry, cis men in particular, can listen and actually learn, if they're interested in like actually making change. I think that folks have so much knowledge and knowledge to give, and especially in spaces where like you're not maybe interacting with a lot of women, you might not hear those types of stories, and it's good to be able to hear those from folks. So, because I think sometimes people are like, that doesn't really happen, but it's like every single time I hear the same, it's this, the stories keep coming. So it's been really fun, as I'm sure you know.
Oh yes. Love it.
Yeah.
Were you recording in person before the pandemic hit, or were you like an early?
No, I was doing virtual before the pandemic, because a lot of the interviews I was doing were virtual. And actually, one of the first episodes I did was actually at NAMM, because I had gone and like interviewed folks. I like brought my recorder, and I didn't, it was one of my first times that I actually was out interviewing people. And that's maybe I've only done like 1 or 2 other ones in person. So yeah.
Cool.
That's the goal for Stephanie and I. At some point, we're going to do an interview in person.
Yeah.
One day.
Meet in the middle.
One day.
Yeah, exactly. We'll meet in, what is the middle? Dallas or Chicago, either way.
Yeah, we'll meet in Chicago.
Somewhere in the middle. Where are you from originally, too? You said Midwest.
I'm from Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah, cool.
Yes. I'm currently in Rhode Island.
Love it.
Yes.
East Coast.
Yes.
And we'll link the podcast and everything, so anybody listening can find it. Yeah, that bears without saying. Yeah, great. I think we already, what I wanted to ask was how we could all just kind of get the ball rolling and starting this stuff. I think we already talked about some homework for everybody to leave and start building that trust with your team so that these can flow. And then I feel like I wanted to see what's like a bigger down the line. And I feel like you start with icebreakers, and second you bring in the music Gear Bechdel test, and then you go from there. And I think that's a very cool, or it's a plan to start fostering this and start having these conversations in your company.
Yeah. Totally. And then I think get some community agreements in there. You've got a nice little, you're setting the stage. You're going to be in good shape. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah. Coming up pretty soon, I will be releasing some data from a survey that I did with a gender and music gear experiences survey, which was with about 1,000 folks that will be coming out hopefully shortly. I want to make sure that I'm able to get it out to as many folks as possible. So that looks really at kind of digs in a little bit more around specifically what people's experiences are like, both in social media and in actually retail spaces as well.
So excited.
Ooh,
and companies.
It's
so all of it. It's all coming. Yep.
Amazing.
Oh, I can't wait. This is amazing. So if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
I have a website. It is hillarybjones.com. And I am pretty active on Instagram at Midriff Podcast.
Love it. Give her a follow. Obviously, we'll have all that information in the description below.
Cool.
Rad. Thank you so much, Hilary. This is just the tip of the iceberg of this whole discussion, but I think it's a place to start, and it's awesome. And thank you for having this conversation with us and with all the people you're doing it with, all the work you're doing. It's just building a better ecosystem. We're doing it.
Yeah. And thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. This has been super fun, and I love all that you're doing. So A+. Yay.
Yay. A+ and gold stars for everyone.
We're all achievers. Perfect.
Yes.
We still take traditional forms of you're doing good.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Cool. Thanks again, Hilary.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Swim Masters. Don't forget to follow us on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, to stay up to date on all new things swim. We'd love it if you could share and leave us a review. If you'd like to learn more, please visit us at smartwomeninmusic.org. This episode was co-produced and edited by Stephanie Lamond, Natalie Morrison, and Julia Olsen. See you next time.